when you look at Twitter and seeing all these clones or forks adding like stuff, I feel like, yeah, I should add this, and like be more proactive in that sense. But then you gotta like take a step back and see, like, I don't think it really matters. We're
like
not
slow down.
we weren't the first agent harness or orchestrator, and we're not going to be the last. The features we add right now, I just like want to be quality, and I'm like sort of back into reading more of the code. I was like, yeah, just vibe coding this entire thing to existence, and if it feels good to use, it's good enough to ship.
Hey everybody, it's Kent C. Dodds again, and I'm joined by my friend Julius. How are you doing, Julius?
I'm good. How are you?
Super, super. Very excited to chat with you about product engineering and how we can develop the right skills to know the right thing to build, not just building the thing right. That still matters, but as models and agents and harnesses continue to improve, um, being able to know what direction to point that agent to just becomes so much more important. And so that's why we're talking about this. Julius, why don't we get a little intro to you? What do you work on? What products have you built in the past? And yeah, tell us all about yourself.
Right. So currently I'm mostly building this new agent orchestrator T3 code. And before then, T3 chat, and then so like been doing like AI chat stuff now for a little over a year. And before then, I was actually like still in university back in Sweden, working like part-time with Theo and Mark at their like previous products, like upload things. So we built a file upload service, and yeah, I've been doing some product development for the past like 2.5 years. So, but now recently gotten more and more into AI and what that looks like.
Like yeah, like many of us,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I think it from what I can tell, the T3 ecosystem cares very much about things being really fast, and that user experience just being excellent. Like that seems to be the, at least whenever I'm hearing Theo talk about it, that's like the key differentiator is that user experience is so good and it's so fast. What's
Yeah.
your read on that? Is that kind of a priority for you guys over there?
Yeah. So like when they started T3 chat, that's what like their like core principles was that like every AI chat at the time was very slow and very like not very user friendly. So they built T3 chat in order to solve that. And then I jumped on that and started working on that. But then like in January, I got like super pilled on the like agent orchestrators like Conductor, and was like very productive and just loved the workflow. But I quickly just like got very slow. And like when you're like running 10 agents in parallel, because it's very like easy to build stuff now, and you just got like plan out to work. Like my MacBook Air that I had at the time was just like going crazy. It like
Oh
ran out of
no.
memory because the agents was taking too much resources. And then the Codex app came out, and it was like kind of the same thing. It's like a very good built
Hmm.
app, but it takes like system resources like nothing else. So
Yeah.
yeah, like that's the elevator pitch for T3 code. Is like we want to do this right in the sense that you can run it on like any machine, and it shouldn't like make your fans explode, and like just be a good user experience and a fast way to interact with these agents.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, the one question I have about that is so T3 code is not a harness. I actually just saw a video from Theo calling it a harness, which I think makes a lot of sense. So you can choose to have it run Cloud Code and Codex and Cursor and all these different other harnesses. So how do you maybe I'm misunderstanding where the bottlenecks came from. Maybe it was just the app. So is the underlying actual harness not the slow part for these different apps? It's like the Cloud Code, the app itself, or that's a TUI, right? So I'm not sure. And then Codex, like that's an app for sure. So is the app part the part that is slow, or how do you make it fast?
So like it depends. Like the agents is always going to be slower than the app, of course, but at least at the start of the Codex app era, like opening a thread took like up to a second for me. And when you're
Yeesh,
navigating around this app for the entire day, that like
that's
time,
painful.
yeah, it adds up. And it's just like that's not what I want to do. So what we've put a lot of focus in, like, is just making the app very snappy, so you can like navigate around it, like supervising your agents. You don't have to like look at loading states all day. But yeah, like of course, like the actual agent run will still be slow. Like we're not controlling that. Um, but yeah, like just putting in a lot of focus on making everything very snappy is currently where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And all the demos that I've seen of it, it's super snappy, makes a lot of sense. You mentioned earlier that back in January you got kind of orchestrator pilled, and for a lot of people listening, January 2026 was like a really huge shift, which I think is kind of interesting because GPT 5.2 I think came out in December, and if I remember right, Opus came out in November. So it took a little while for people to kind of get it because everybody references January or like December, January kind of time frame. So I actually think that a lot of that is just the harnesses taking advantage of these models in the best way possible was kind of the where the unlock happened. You need the model first, of course, but then a really good harness for it. What was your experience like at that time, and like how did that change the way that you think about building software?
So I think the biggest shift has been like the parallelism. That previously I was like working in Cursor, having like one agent at a time, looking at the code that it was writing, because it was very hard to, you know, do multiple stuff in parallel because
Mm,
none of the apps really supported that workflow. In Cursor, you could only have like one project open at a time, and then
mm,
yeah, you could have like multiple agents, but then they would like run into each other. Um, and then like when I came back from the holiday breaks in January, Theo like asked me to try these agents more, like go more all in. I had already like started going deeper and deeper into it, but it was still like one agent at a time that's running. But I'd say like yeah, maybe like December, November, since like Opus came out, more and more code was generated by AI, but it was still very this like sequential workflow. And when now that the orchestrators has like exploded, everyone seems to do an orchestrator these days. Uh,
yeah,
that works just now.
yourself included.
Yes, it's just so much easier to have stuff being built in parallel, and you can like implement 10 features in parallel, and the bottleneck becomes like A, deciding whether this feature is worth having or not,
Mhm.
B, like what are the long-term consequences, because yes, you can push out 10 features in an hour if you want, but will that code be maintainable long term? Probably not. Will that feature like step on future product development, product decisions like toes? Maybe. So like yeah, you just gotta be very good at like filtering out the noise, because like building is not the bottleneck anymore.
Yeah, yeah, precisely. And that's exactly the conclusion I came to around that time period too. It's like, oh shoot. Like traditionally, my job has been accelerating experienced engineers' acquisition of knowledge and experience in a particular area that they didn't have an experience in before. Like, okay, you know how to develop software, but you don't know React yet. Let me teach you React. You don't know how to test. Let me teach you how to test. You don't know full stack. Let me teach you that. But see now, I do think that those skills make you more productive when working with agents. I don't think that those skills just like disappear, but the pain of not having those skills is felt a lot less. Like it just doesn't hurt as much to not have those skills. And so, obviously, a very impactful part of my business. But I'm not crying about it because I like ultimately, aside from, of course, feeding my family, my goal is to just help people build quality software. And I'm not needed in that realm anymore. But what you said, I think speaks exactly to the direction everything is going. Now it is how to decide whether a feature is worth having, or what the long-term consequences are, or whether you're going to step on product development. I think that is really the skill that software engineers need to have now. And so, from your experience, how do you decide whether a feature is worth having, or the long-term consequences of it?
But like I've been thinking a lot about that like these past 2 weeks, pretty much. Like we have a lot of people forking T3 code now and adding a bunch of cool features and like, asking, oh, when is this going to come to like the core product? And it pretty much boils down to like it's very easy to put that feature into existence in your own personal software, and like that's great. Like everyone can fork and make their own features to like suit their own workflows. But when we're building like the core part that people can build on top of, we gotta be like a bit more careful with what we add. So like I've seen cool features adding stuff to the sidebar, but you can't combine them because then they would like look ugly because it would be way too much stuff there. So
Yeah.
on their own, they're like super cool, but then it doesn't like scale up, I would say. And like when it comes to making the decision, that's sometimes just gotta come down to, is this extensible? So one example I have there could be like people adding browsers to teacher code, or people adding like split panes. You can split like having multiple threads open side by side. And each PR that I see adding that is doing it in its own like isolated way. And so I'm gotta think about like, okay, how can we generalize this? So like in my head, I can see like just needing to make the whole layout system better and not just adding the feature to add two chats side by side. And like by adding the better layout system, I can like accommodate for everyone's needs in the future by then the forks can just like plug into that. So I think like that's where my head is mostly at now. Just like making a good foundation that you can build on top of and not just think one feature at a time.
Yeah, that is such a useful and valid skill for people to develop, to not just take every single user request and say, oh, okay, great, let me just fire off an agent to go do that, but to see the whole product like as a full picture, and say, oh, we can like knock out all of these requests by just having a better layout system. And now like you can lay out the chat here with a browser there too, like, and you can use that for all sorts of things rather than just having specifically feature two chats open next side by side, for example. Yeah, that makes sense. So you also mentioned like how to know, or knowing whether a particular feature that you're adding is going to step on future product development. I wonder, like, do you ever run into situations where you feel a lot of pressure to ship something that you know is maybe not the right direction to go in long term, and is going to slow you down in other areas, but is the right decision to go for now? Well, we know that the models are getting better, or we know that like this, especially since you're a harness for harnesses, we know that Cursor is working on this, but they're not done with that yet. So we've got to ship something, to make up for that failing or whatever.
Sometimes, yeah. Like I saw that they were, or like before we even started T3 code, I was like, yeah, Cursor's gonna make their own version of this, and like it's probably gonna be good enough for me. But we didn't want to wait for that, so we did it, and now they have Cursor Glass, and from my experience, it's like not the best app. Like I love the Cursor harness, I love the Cursor like Cursor specific features, but whenever I try the app, it just crashes my computer.
Oh no.
So
Yeah. See, I guess maybe that's like a power user, or like a hidden skill is just using lower powered machines, because it helps you, like, instead of a beefy MacBook, get a MacBook Air, And
Like now I'm on a beefy MacBook Pro, so like it
oh,
shouldn't boil down. I got this because my memory was running out when I had like 5 plots running at the same time. But yeah, like um yeah, like I feel that pressure, like when you look at Twitter and seeing all these clones or clones forks adding like stuff. I feel like yeah, I should add this, and like be more proactive in that sense. But then you gotta like take a step back and see like I don't think it really matters. We're
like
not
slow down.
we weren't the first agent harness or orchestrator, and we're not going to be the last. So like the features we add right now, I just like want to be quality, and um, I'm like sort of back into reading more of the code. For a while there, I was like, yeah, just vibe coding this entire thing to existence, and if it feels good to use, it's good enough to ship. And like those decisions are sort of catching up to me now, and I'm like wanting to add new stuff and just like looking into the mess that Codex has created. So now I'm sort of like taking it a bit slower and just making sure that it's good before shipping it, and not necessarily being first.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a recurring theme in this podcast series is to slow down. We've had some people who are much more on like I read every line of code. Other people are kind of in the middle and a little bit of. I think it largely depends on the app that you're working on. Like if you are the only user, then just vibe code that thing. Like
Yeah,
who cares?
yeah,
But if you're building something that you've got users who are paying or many users or like maybe it's a library lots of people use, then being a little bit more intentional is probably a good call.
yeah. I think it was like depends on how long you intend that app to like exist and be useful for. Like, because you can one shot amazing stuff into existence now. And if you just want an app for one specific thing for your personal needs, cool, do that. Like by all means, the agents will more than capable to like do that in a few prompts.
Mm.
But if you're like gonna keep working on this in a year, uh, maybe be a bit more deliberate. Like review the code a bit to like know that it's not writing the biggest mess. Because like maintainability has always been a concern, I think, like at least for me. And I think the like speed that the maintainability of software is going down rapidly now, with these vibe coded apps. So if you want the software to exist in 4 months, 5 months, maybe take a peek under the hood at least and see like it's
Yeah, yeah.
not backing you into a corner for future decisions.
That actually is really like that phrase you just said, to avoid backing into the corner for future decisions. I think that's actually what the value that our historical engineering skills still offers. If you are a totally brand new software developer, you've never coded a day in your life, and you're just vibe coding all the time, you don't know when the agent is making decisions that are going to put you in a corner that will make it harder for you to implement future features or whatever. Like it's making an infrastructure decision that's going to make it really hard to migrate when things actually matter, and different things like that. So yeah, experienced software developers are still really valuable because of the battle scars that we have from making bad decisions in the past.
I would like to think so, at least.
Yeah, it makes me feel better. Yeah, all this time was not wasted. I'm curious, when you're making these product decisions, um, like how are you determining like the vision for the product, the direction you're going? Are you like, I don't think you're working solo on this, and you've got obviously lots of open source contributions. Do you have like not maybe a steering committee is not the right word, but like a team that you're using to make these product decisions, and how do you determine that, or is it just kind of like open the PR and then we'll look at it and decide? Like, how intentional is the vision?
I think that the like long-term vision is mostly set by me and Theo discussing stuff in our office, and then like he's a very busy man, so it's basically me. The engineering force is basically me and all the open source contributors out there. But yeah, so that means that I need to like do the engineering and also like the open source maintenance right now, and that is a lot of work. So that's why
I
we're not
imagine.
getting that many like big PRs merged. It's just like we don't have the staff for it. It's just like bug fixes. I try and look at them, because I know that's, I don't know how many PRs there's open now, probably 300 or so. I
Oh
know
my
there's
goodness.
like gold in there, but just like filtering through that noise is too time consuming. And
Yeah.
um, at least like for the short term, I think we like gotta add more harness support. Right now we're just like cloud and codecs, and we've been trying to add cursor for a bit now, but their HCP has um, been missing features that they've been like proactively
Hmm.
adding for us. So hopefully getting that out this week.
Hmm.
And then like the same for open code. Um, but then like when it comes to like we gotta monetize somehow. Like this
Yeah.
product is free to use. No one's gonna pay us to use this. And like figuring out what that is, I think is what we're currently like discussing. And we have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so like where the product will go is for now mostly like what we ourselves feel like is missing from the ecosystem. Like what does Codex not do, or what is how can we like take the gold from Cursor and integrate it into our app? Because like I love Composer too, I love their cloud engines, I love the like debug mode, but the actual app I don't really want to be in because it just crashes my computer. Um, so yeah, like we'll see where we end up. So yeah, long term we gotta find some way to monetize, I think, if we don't get acquired before then. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, like there are so many features that why I would like to add, but just like don't have time for. And prioritizing that sometimes it just like works out by itself. I feel like, um, which might not be the best product decision. um, but like sometimes I feel like I have some part of my workflow that is the bottleneck. Currently, that is
Hmm.
like review, and so that's might be what I'm gonna be like planning out next. How that is gonna look like. Previously, it was like the remote control. Like I want to be able to control my agents from anywhere, and so like we added that. Um, so like a bit selfish, I guess, but yeah, it is what we two feel like is missing from the current solutions at least.
Yeah.
It's
That really is the best situation that or I guess it's different, but it's so nice to be a user of the product that you're building. And then you can just say, I'm just building what I think would be great, and hopefully it's great for everybody else. But like you said, you do have to eventually like make money doing this so that it's sustainable, or potentially get acquired. And so I'm curious because you were involved with T3 Chat as well. How does going from a free product to changing to a paid product um, change the product itself, change your priorities? How do you make sure that you're um, both like serving the user but also making a sustainable business?
uh yeah, that's a very good like question because E3 chat was that's you get your own subscription for that, and then we pay the inference to the providers we use in the backend. So there we got to be very like careful with how much inference we offer. And we currently like in the beginning of the year we made changes to the pricing structure just to be more sustainable long term. But with T3 code, people are bringing their own subscriptions from these labs that are subsidizing.
That's a lot better.
Because we could never offer a subscription that is competitive in this space. Like when you can get $5,000 worth of credits on Codex, or however many times they are resetting their limits nowadays, like we can't compare. We can't compete there. So like that's also like making it harder to like know what the monetization will be like. But yeah, for T3 chat is way more like sort of constrained by the feature we can build, because some features just won't fit in the subscription. Like we added the better image generation canvas flow beginning of the year, and we had to like introduce a bigger tier for that because image generation is too expensive to offer on an $8 a month tier. And like also we're like limiting the amount of tool calls you can make on a chat app. We're not like offering the like integrations that a cloud app is using for like Excel and shit, which I think is very, very cool. But just another thing, like we can't offer that because it's going to be too expensive. So that is it's very much it's way more fun to work on T3 code when you don't have to think about like what it's going to cost. Because someone else is footing the bill.
That's part of how one of the things I love about MCP is that like I can build all of these really awesome capabilities and then let people bring their own agent, and they pay for the inference, and I can just say like use my MCP server and I can superpower your agent with whatever I want to do, but I don't have to worry about inference.
That's the way. That's the right place to be in. When you don't have to think about the inference and competing with the major labs.
Yeah. So what, like, when you decided you wanted to jump into building the harness, what were like, how did you decide the most important things to build first? Because like you already said, you have so many features that you want to build now that even with the agents that we have, like you're still limited on how much time you can work on those different things. And so when you're just getting started, you gotta like kind of prioritize somehow. Like obviously you're prioritizing now, but like at the very beginning, I feel like deciding the most critical pieces to build first would be a little challenging. So how did you make those decisions?
Let's see. What did we add first? Like coming from a different app, like at the time I was using the Codex app, so I had gotten used to certain workflows that I know I wanted to like at least keep in the short term, even if we had like bigger plans long term for changing that workflow. But if I knew I wanted to like switch to using T3 code myself, so like I'm a user of the app that I'm building every day. I think like that's a very important part. So like some early product decisions came down to getting to feature parity with the core workflows that the other apps supported at the time, just to make the like migration easier over. And so now I haven't opened the Codex app for a very long time. I'm still like in the cursor app, most like the IDE, so like looking at the code and making changes, sometimes using their agents there. But I wanted to like move as much of my workflow as possible to T3 code, so that I can like dogfood it the best I can. So I think that's where like the early decisions came down to getting the core features from the existing apps in. And now we start to think a bit more long term, like, okay, what is the what is the next year going to look like, and how are the workflows going to change, and how can we accommodate that in the future?
Yeah, that makes sense. With you being the like primary user that like you're focused on, that makes it a lot easier. But I think a takeaway for people who aren't the user of their app, maybe it's some guy building a lactation app for the mothers or something like that, like they're not actually going to be using this. The key here is finding a good user, or determining whose job are you solving. Like, somebody's got a job to be done. How are you taking that and then comparing that to existing workflows that they have already, and hitting at least feature parity with those, and then incrementally improving those workflows to suit the like the needs of those users better. It sounds like that's kind of what you did for yourself, but like if you were building a product app that wasn't for yourself, you could relatively easily do the same thing just by focusing on a couple of users and like getting really good feedback loops with them.
Yeah, I think like in order to get users from the beginning, is sometimes it's easier if they have something to compare against that they're like familiar with. And so if you can offer them that, it's like easier to get them to try your stuff out. Yeah.
So it's about finding pains and coming up with clever ways to solve them. Did you like with you being the user of your app, you have a lot of clarity of the problem yourself. Did you ever find yourself building out a solution to some pain in your workflow and then realizing, no, this stinks, I got to go a different direction? Maybe for you, it's like partway through implementing it, you realize, like before you even ship anything, like, this is probably a bad direction.
I've had it a lot of times, like just the way the agents are implementing something. Like I can prompt something that I think will work very well, and then like when I see the agents just going in circles, I feel like maybe I wasn't clear enough on the problem, or maybe I'm solving the wrong problem. And it's been a while since I like manually wrote a lot of code, so it's like mid-implementation has changed. But that's like also if you like supervise your agents a bit, not just like throwing them in a cloud sandbox and checking back 5 hours later. You can sort of steer them. And a lot of people has been asking for like message queuing in T3 code, and that is not something I've prioritized yet because I don't use it myself. I mostly like to steer the agents. It's like sending prompts like midterm, because I've noticed like if you just leave it be and with a vague prompt, it can like make bad decisions on the fly. It can like back itself into a corner. It can like go in circles trying to fix something, and what you end up with is maybe what you were looking for, but not in an elegant way. And I guess that comes back to what we were talking like earlier, like if it's gonna like be sustainable long term, kind of gotta, you gotta see a bit what it's doing.
I think this is an interesting call out though, because maybe some people are using T3 code to just vibe code something. Like, this is not something I'm going to maintain long term, and so they want this feature. Maybe some of them want this feature because they are just sending off an agent to work for 5 hours, and they don't want to. They're not being very responsible. But there could be some of your users who are saying, no, I really am just like vibe coding a little side project here. I do want to send queuing. And so getting a good representation of feedback from users and like tightening that loop is really valuable. With yourself as a user, you've got the tightest feedback loop possible. Like, I don't know how you make that any tighter, but especially as your app grows in popularity, there are use cases that you might want to support that are not necessarily the way that you would like the workflows that you have, but do represent like a broad use case for your user base.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like that's what, when like now that we have a lot of the core laid out, that's gonna be like the next set of problems to tackle is like, okay, now that we have the stuff that we need, what is like more general needs? What are like different ways to accommodate these workflows? And in some way that's like good and bad to build for developers, because developers tend to really want to customize their apps, like the workflows want to have like very custom to themselves. And so you got to build a product that you can customize, but then it's kind of hard to also like show the core workflows. What is the like the recommended way to do this? Okay, now you have, I can customize this to have like 4 or 5 different ways to solve this problem, but what do you recommend? And like I've seen people on Twitter asking me like, what is your agent workflow? And I've been like reluctant to share it, mostly because I think like you gotta like find it yourself. And what worked for me is not going to work for everyone else. So, but also like building that in so like you can capture all those user groups is gonna be very difficult, and it's gonna be a fun challenge to tackle in the near future.
Yeah, and one of that is a technical challenge. It's an interesting technical challenge because it's very much a people challenge as well. And I appreciate that you originally pushed back on message queuing because you know that in your experience that makes for software that's harder to maintain. And like it's not just let's load this feature or this thing up with every possible workflow, but you're actually being thoughtful about like the job to be done. It's not just what do they want, but it's what do they need. And they need, in your mind, people are using this to build maintainable software, and maybe it expands beyond that. And so, okay, we're going to add message queuing because it's for more than that. But like at the same time, you want to build in features so that the pit of success is wide. Like you don't want to make it easy for people to build bad software with your software. You want them to have a positive experience using the software. And so you're going to prevent them from doing things that are harmful. It's like the same thing as like a fence around a roller coaster. Like it might be fun for people to walk right up to the roller coaster, but that's dangerous. And so we're going to put up this fence to prevent you from doing that. And so like just having the sense for what are things that people might want to do with this that we're not going to let them because it's not good for their overall experience using this product.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like I'm not gonna like prevent them from doing it long term. It's just like more than like I'm not gonna prioritize that when there are other more important things to solve. That is like, yeah, because like people are gonna use it. I know a lot of people is using it to build personal apps or web coded stuff, and they don't have the same problems as I do. And I'm not gonna say no to that, but it's just hasn't. It's like, yeah, it's the priority queue, I guess you could call it, is sort of decided in an order. Those workflows, at least for me, is not something that I'm gonna spend like my time on right now.
Yeah.
If someone else comes in and build it, fine, I can review it. I can like, I know it's something that we're gonna add. It's just like when we're gonna add it and when I'm gonna put my time to it.
Cool. Well, Julius, it's been awesome to chat with you about how you think about product engineering. Before you go, I like to leave people with like a homework assignment, something specific that they can do to improve their product sense, their product engineering skills themselves. So I want you to think a little bit about like what is a specific thing that somebody could do. They could put it on a list and check it off. I did that thing. That would get them just a little bit closer to being a skilled product engineer, having the right product decisions. So what's something in your experience that has made you a better product engineer that somebody could do to just like practice?
I think for me, it's really been that skill to like take a step back and broaden your eyes a bit, like look at the problem from a different perspective. Especially like working with you, who can be like very good at getting a proof of concept out there and like showing me a feature. He can like be very good at that, like getting something working very fast. So then it's sort of like been my job to like take the step back and see like, okay, how's this look long term, and is the solution like good and maintainable for us to develop further on, like over time. So I think that skill has been like pretty good for me.
Awesome. Good. So, folks, your homework for this episode is to take a step back and look at your product from the whole picture. Lots of developers listening to this work on a massive product, and they're just like on one little sliver. For those people, like look at the whole picture, the parts that you touch, the parts that you don't touch. And then for the smaller products, even those, unless you're building like little mini apps all the time, which even that, like there's a way that you can take a step back and maybe don't look at the app specifically, but more at the users that you're serving and what their actual needs are. That is the homework assignment. So Julius, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. Appreciate you very much. And if there's anybody who has questions for you or want to follow you and keep up with what you're up to, what's the best way for them to do that?
Currently X name, my tag is like Juliarino, I think. I picked that tag way back, so. But yeah,
Awesome.
just tag me there. I might reply if I have time, but that's probably the best way.
Super. Thank you so much, Julius. I appreciate your time and hope you have a great one. We'll see you all in the next one.
See ya.